advocating for yourself. I think from when I was a young 20-year-old till now, even though there were times where I doubted myself, and then as I got older, I became very confident. The one thing I wish I would have been a little bit more forceful on is that advocacy for myself. Because yeah, your boss can like, hey, person A, B is doing great, but like that's one person. You gotta stick with your gut. When opportunity is available, advocate for you, yourself, your product, anything that you stand for. Because in the end, while you have other forces that may be supporting you or not supporting you, no one's going to tell your story better than yourself.
Take control of your career and compensation right now. It's your 5-minute career hack. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day, and welcome back to our new special edition of the podcast that features amazing leaders, entrepreneurs, doctors, and more, all to help you in the great pivot, whether that is for your career, within your company, or the passion purpose business you've always dreamed of. You will continue to get the hacks that you are accustomed to getting with these amazing leaders sharing from their personal bag, right? So they're going to dive deep into the things that they've done in their life, everything they know, and everything they wish they had known. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so you're the first to know when a new interview drops. Also, leave us a comment letting us know if there's a specific guest or a specific industry you want to hear from. Hackers, this interview came about because of Forbes Black, which myself and our guest today were both selected to be a part of. Michelle Antwi is an executive with global reach in the creative marketing and advertising space. With the world-renowned JPM Chase, Michelle has 19 years of experience in TV, digital, print media. Her experience has given her the opportunity to develop and execute innovative, custom integrated programs for clients through the pre- and post-sale process. She has strategized and increased advertising revenue across TV, display, video, OTT, editorial, sponsorships, search, and print, as well as social media platforms. Now, when you're able to increase revenue through advertising and directly do that, you're absolutely in the sweet spot for marketing. Michelle, welcome to the 5-Minute Career Hack Podcast.
Hi, guys, and thank you guys for having me. Woo-hoo-hoo. I didn't think about it until you gave the rundown of my background. I was like, oh, I might be okay. Like,
Yes, absolutely. You are a boss with a global company that's servicing over 100+ global communities. That's phenomenal and doing it big time, So tell us about your journey, Michelle.
absolutely. I'm going to take you a little bit back to when I graduated from college. And when I graduated from college, I went to Rutgers University School of Communications, and I graduated with a double major in journalism and political science. And I just knew I was going to be a journalist. And I took all the internships at ABC and NBC. I had a
Wow.
great group of supporters, and the reporters, they allowed me to do like stands ups to share it once, when I was looking for a job.
Imagine a world where recruiters come knocking at your virtual door, eager to hire you for your dream job. This can be you with 5-Minute Career Hacks exclusive LinkedIn hacking package. Over 90% of recruiters rely on this platform to make hiring decisions. And guess what else? 75% of people hired last year were discovered right here on LinkedIn. But we get it. You're busy, overwhelmed, and just struggling to find the time to optimize your profile. Let us do the work for you. For a limited time only, sign up today and we can help you break through your career on LinkedIn.
Then the job market comes around and I can't find no job. I'm looking around, I'm like, all of these things I've done in college and internships, I got the best internships, and I can't find a job, particularly more so in the New York metropolitan area. I couldn't find anything. And then the few that were out there were probably in Wisconsin or something, and I ain't have no type of money. I ain't no money. So I said,
Right.
so I searched and searched, and then I finally got a position in as a program research assistant at Comedy Central MTV. And that is where the like real career begins. I started there with um, with program researching, it's more like you are going to figure out what kind of shows resonate with your audience.
Okay.
And so for Comedy Central, the things that were big back then was like Dave Chappelle and all these other
Right.
things for Comedy Central. I wasn't there for when they checked to see how Dave Chappelle was doing, but there was a slew of other television shows that were coming out that they want to get a sense and engage the audience to see if it would actually do well in market. So I started there, and based on how the audience would react, will determine if we're going to put the show on television. And so it was a lot of learning what the ratings were, things of that nature, just understanding the user, and then working with the salespeople in terms of the advertisers to make sure that the content that we had was content that would be good for the advertisers that wanted to run on Comedy Central. So it was a good basis for me. Right.
Right.
Good basis. I'm learning. This is great. It's my first job. I finally got a little bit of money after searching for a year. And I kind of noodled around that for a little bit, just understanding the TV world and the digital space. And then I moved on to do things with, I figured, well, I know a little bit of TV, but at that time, the digital space was starting to get really, really big.
Wait,
Uh,
about what year was that? You can remember for
I,
us.
I almost want to say something around maybe oh 07, oh
Okay.
08-ish.
Okay,
I
just so
feel
we can
like,
understand the internet impact inside of
yeah,
that story.
internet,
Yes.
and I had done MTV for about a year or so, and I'm like, well, let me see what else is out there. And so I got a job at AOL. AOL, yes, the dial-up, but it wasn't
Right.
like the dial-up then.
Right. It was everything back
It
then.
was everything. It was,
Yes.
they had the instant message, but way before I got there. But they were coming into their own because they were a space where they were trying to integrate and do things differently, which is like create websites with branded content and utilizing advertisers to kind of integrate with branded content. So it was a good time for me. I learned about creating ideas, more like sponsorship ideas for our advertising partners. And so it is coming up with ideas that resonate with your advertisers, but also understanding their objective, right? Because they're coming up with what we would like from you, and then we're here as the marketing person or the marketing specialist or the marketing lead to hone in on what their objective is, and then find areas within AOL at the time that work best for them. So it could be we're creating a video series. It could be we're
Mhm.
doing a digital content series on one of our websites. It was kind of incorporating all the sponsorship ideas to help get this specific advertiser where they wanted to be. So it was a good starting point, just understanding the landscape of digital. Social wasn't big at that time. So it,
Right.
it it started to come in a little bit. Twitter started to come in a little bit. And so it was a great understanding to kind of work with your internal teams and then also your marketing partner. So it's a slew of people. And they even sent me to go learn how to build an app at that time. And apps weren't even a big
Wow.
thing. Yeah.
That
So
wasn't even a thing
that
hardly.
wasn't even a thing. They kind of got me into it, and I was like, "This is great." So I started there, learning, being able to travel with the teams and the folks that I'm working with in terms of the advertising space. And then I managed to go to Ask Jeeves. And I don't even
Okay.
know if you remember Ask Jeeves. I mean,
No, I
Google is the
don't.
number one, but Ask Jeeves with the little butler,
I
that whole thing.
vaguely, I
Yes,
think I
yeah,
might if I
okay.
saw a picture of it, I might
You might,
remember.
yes.
But this is basically Google before Google, right?
Google before Google, because Google was there, but
Okay.
Google was there, but so was the Yahoos and so was
Right.
MSN.
Right,
But
right.
the Ask Jeeves was like a smaller one, but it caught the eye of a lot of people, and especially it was a big thing in the SEO space.
Okay.
And for me, that was kind of actually one of the hardest jobs I've had because it was search is very specific because they are based on like keywords. And you
Right.
can honestly like mess up someone's campaign if you don't
Completely.
know their business completely on how much you're spending for a keyword, how you're optimizing the campaign, all that good stuff. So it was a good learning thing for me because one, now I have the digital era space going on in my background, and then now I know the search, and it kind of all encompasses that whole thing. So I did that for about 2 years, learning the space, understanding what SEO means to an advertiser, and then how you can utilize that for encompassing it within any of your campaigns. So good for me. Excellent. Oh,
Right.
I'm learning. This is good. And then a next opportunity came for me at the New York Times.
Okay.
Now, New York Times, when I was a little kid,
That was everything.
that was kind of my thing. Like, oh well, if anybody can go to New York Times, that's a big deal. Like, it's the New York
Hmm.
Times.
You've arrived.
Yeah, like not everybody. And when you grow up as if your initial thought is that you want to be a journalist, that's kind of where you kind of want to be. If you're writing, even if you're not writing and you want to do broadcast journalism, it's still a notable name. And
Right.
so I honed in on the advertising and marketing experience that I had with AOL, and even a little bit because it still was account management with Ask Jeeves. I became a sales development manager at New York Times, and again, it is also coming up with ideas, custom marketing materials for any of the myriad of advertisers that it used. But it had you thinking because New York Times is like a real legit brand, and they had their business side, they had the editorial side, so just really understanding the customer, and then making sure that whatever you're executing is showcased in any of the elements that they have, any of the options that they have on New York Times. And again, that could have been the .com, that could have been some of their printed material, any of those things. And it was good for me again to see how each of these different publishing companies advertise and the thinking and the strategy that comes from that. So it was a great experience for me. I just learned a lot about understanding my book of business. And when I say my book of business, I mean like the advertisers that we work with. So I did that for a little bit, 2 years or so, and then I went to Oprah. I went to Oprah Winfrey Network, not
Right.
Oprah the
Like the
show,
show, right? The
like
network. Okay.
Oprah Winfrey Network, and it was a pretty new, I think, for Oprah too, because she's never owned a network before, right?
Yep.
She had a great show on a network, but she never owned the space, and so it was a great learning experience too, because I got to work again, learning the understanding the brand and then understanding the advertisers. And it was the year that she did the Live Your Life tour. So for me, it was understanding what kind of sponsorship material, or more so, what kind of sponsorship ideas could we come up that would elevate whatever advertiser that we use at the time, and then understand where within our marketing universe we could utilize and share these opportunities for this advertiser. So the one of the few great things, because there's a lot of great things about OWN, is that we worked with Oprah.com, right? Because that's part of
Okay.
the OWN, because of the digital space to it. So understanding the brand and what we can market on our .com, whether it be banner ads or any rich media units. But it was also we could work with the magazine, O Magazine. So that is where the 360 started to come a little bit more, where again, New York Times had their thing, but when we're thinking from a
Right.
marketing standpoint, it is indeed, if we can run something on the O Magazine, if we can run something on Oprah.com, which is under their own umbrella, and then also television, because with the Oprah OWN, working with OWN, and let me clear that up. While working with OWN, which is the cable, um, I also was involved in working into product integration for any of the shows that they ran on
Okay.
OWN. So that's a lot different than like just doing the advertising on the .com and then the print.
Right.
This is actual integration with upcoming shows that are coming up. So said show is shooting in like another year. We want to see where we can integrate one of the products within the show, and that's where we
Right.
come in and think about that, which is really cool for me because I was watching shows that you would never see until a year later because we were that early in the process. But it gets the creative juices kind of kicking in. So that includes like little vignettes for the commercials that you see when you're watching the television on cable or regular television. It's coming up with those vignettes. It's coming up with anything that you're running on the .com. So it was for me, a great experience, because a lot different than when I started at MTV, which is when I'm coming to working with what do I say? Working with show development to see if the show is actually going to be good versus now we're in the development and
Right.
how can we integrate products. So good for me because I learned a lot. I'm like, oh, and again, it's Oprah. Like,
Right. Hey, it's cool. It's got the it factor going on for sure.
it's a nice little resume booster. And I'm pretty lucky because the few that I mentioned, the New York Times, MTV, which is big back then because TRL was big back then. All of
Huge.
those were very good opportunities for me to kind of learn and understand how the marketing landscape was changing in a way, right? As I go along, we're adding other things and things of that nature. So it was a great opportunity for me. And after about a year, I got an opportunity to go to Bloomberg. And
Wow.
Bloomberg is almost like they have a television studio. They
Right.
have Bloomberg Business Week. They have their Bloomberg.com. Then they have their terminal. Then so it's a like
Massive.
almost a little bit of Goliath, but good
Yes.
for someone that understands working with all of these mechanisms to make a great marketing program. And
Right.
so for me, for that position, because I had two positions while I was at Bloomberg, the first 5 years, I again created. Once we got RFPs, I worked with the creative team to blow out or enhance um, our marketing strategy for these advertisers. Now, I worked with a bunch of people, which is editors and video and all of that. So, there are some of them are like the brains of the operation because
Right.
they're coming up with the ideas. But again, back based on my marketing experience, I'm just understanding and providing my 2 cents, and I'm project managing from the beginning to the end, going on
Correct.
shoots with the video editor and understanding like, well, creative brief didn't really say that, or it did say that. Let's make sure that we're kind of tailoring. And during that process, you become really good friends with the people that you are creating this content for.
Right.
So these advertisers are now becoming family because you understand their brand, you're getting them what they want, and then also it's also the performance of the campaign because we can do all these
Mhm.
great things, but it's understanding, making sure that it's being presented properly based on their media plan, and then also making sure that it's performing well so that they can come back. It's
Correct.
kind of sell
Huge.
these to folks. It's yeah, if we're gonna build these
Everything.
brands, make sure that they come back and spend more money with us, right? And so I did that for 5 years, and it was one of the best learning experiences I've ever had because the type of advertisers that come to Bloomberg, right? You got the
Mhm.
Goldman Sachs, you got the
Huge.
Black Rocks of the world, then you also got like tech companies like Oracle and Citrix. So it's kind of an open gamut, and the bigger it is and the more money that you have, the more things you can do. And so we came up like with a boilerplate. You spend this amount of money, we can do this. If you do this amount of money, we can do this. So it's while the money is helping, but it's also helping in terms of the creativity that all of us are working with. So it was just good for me and good for the brand, and I'm really thankful for the opportunity that I had there because I got to grow. And one other thing that I will add about my time there is after that initial 5 years, I got promoted to manage the creative content operations team on a television side. And so that is working with editors and designers to uh, what's the best word I want to say for this? Working with editors and designers to create the feature shows that you see on Bloomberg
Okay.
television.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so all of the things that you see on regular cable network, we also do. The team actually did cuts that you would see on Bloomberg.com, on the YouTube pages, on the social networks, because again, it's including it all. And I managed a small team of 5 people, and the team created magic. And for me, again, I've done TV, but I wasn't in there creating the shows. I wasn't like managing
Right.
people that are like, so it was a great opportunity for me to see that side, also manage some people. Again, the 360, because before it was sponsorships, but now I'm actually working
In
with the
it.
team that creates the content. And so I think for me, if I put it in a nutshell, even though I started in a space where I wanted to be a reporter and that was the dream, and I was like, I'm gonna be on television. And I had the support system, at least from what I thought when I was a young Michelle. Sometimes things change for you, whether it be the job market is bad, whether it be the job market is good and you're still not finding anything. You can find other things that can enhance your growth, your personal development. And for me, that was working with all of these different companies, right? And I took a nugget from each of them. And so I'm very thankful for it because it kind of expanded my world. And when it expanded my world, you then become, I want to say, unstoppable. You become unstoppable because you know your stuff then. You know what I mean? And so for about, that's about 18-ish years with, starting from the bottom, come all the way to the top. And then I got an opportunity at JPM Morgan Chase. But what I do want to say is I think while all the other jobs helped me get to where I am, I think the Bloomberg thing or the Bloomberg effect helped me even more with JPM because of the financial clients that they have.
Yes.
And I had a lot of them. And so I think utilizing my background and understanding the type of objectives that a lot of finance companies come to, whether it be brands or products, I already knew it. And again, not knowing it for just one advertiser, knowing it from different advertisers. And so I got the opportunity to go to JP Morgan Chase. I am a creative marketer project manager for their private bank and asset management.
Yep.
So I manage two lines of business and I work with some smart people, but it's just understanding, enhancing some of the marketing objectives that they have for any other campaigns that they have, whether it be products or insight related. And again, it's just, what is your main goal for your clients and how can we enhance that? So is it anything creatively, imagery, content, the actual content, or supporting any of the video initiatives because we have a video team. So it is, I think, utilizing all of the background information from, not background, just experience helped me kind of gauge my way into becoming a creative marketing project manager for JPM Morgan Chase again. So
Which
that's
is
a long
awesome.
journey.
No, but filled with some turns, working from some massive global brands, some brands that I know the audience recognizes. And a follow-up question on that journey. So many people, and I think this is starting to die down a little bit, but there are a lot of clients that we help on a regular basis, as well as some people that are listening probably wondering the job shifts, right? Even though that was over the course of 19 years, you
Yeah.
still have worked for a good bit of companies. And sometimes people are afraid, to spend a year somewhere and leave. What allowed you not to fear that as far as your career moves were concerned?
Well, I think at the end, I think when you're young and you're trying to get out there and you're learning the views and understanding the way the world works, I guess you have one way or one set way of thinking. But then you see your counterparts. And then you see how even with marketing and advertising, the shifts. And you either make the move and make the shift, or we stay behind and lose. And so for
Mm,
me, it was just kind of like either I go with the flow and try to learn and get to the next place, or I can sit back and just kind of, I don't want to say waste away because that's not a waste away, but you
right.
lose something when you're not moving forward, right? And I've been laid off before, so I just need people to understand
Yeah,
that. I've been
absolutely. I think
and
everybody, if they've put in 20 years, you've been laid off. Like, there's no
yeah,
way.
definitely been laid off.
Yeah.
One was for like a year, the other was like a couple of months, and you go through almost a soul searching
Mhm.
when you go through a layoff and you're just like, is it me, and what am I going to do? But after being laid off one time, you gotta have you focus on like having a plan. And
Mhm.
so whether it be I have 6 or 7 months to kind of get the job that I want, but if I hit month 4 and I'm not seeing any progress, maybe I'll take a plan B job and then like kind of just do my thing until I find something. So you got to give yourself, I guess, you got to give yourself some levers to pull throughout your journey of thinking what your next step is going to be. Because again, if you don't take the job, someone else will. And
Right.
so it's just kind of going along with the flow, learning what you can, doing things on the side if you want. I guess I didn't feel confident enough to do anything on the side. When I say side, I mean like freelance or anything like that,
Mhm.
or like own my own LLC or do something on the side where I can kind of manage that. And if I needed to, I don't think I was confident enough back then to do it. Maybe even more so now, but I wasn't confident when in the very beginning to kind of like sideline and do that. So in the end, it's very much so focus. There's going to be hardship in between all of these things. You're going to have a layoff, something's going to happen. You may not like the environment you're in. It could be
Mhm.
toxic and you might need to move on to something else, but it's not the end all be all at the end of the day. Like you learn from that There's going to be ebbs and flows. You're going to win, you're going to lose, but just keep focused. And if you keep focused, you can move toward the right direction.
Yeah, and that's a great way to summarize it. Number one, you said either you're going to continue in a very innovative field, which I don't think there's many fields that aren't any innovative at this point. So you had to
Mhm.
keep learning and you had to go where those opportunities were advancing, especially in marketing and advertising with the way the internet and apps and digital and all that stuff really took off in the middle of your career. So I think that's an important point to underscore whether you're in marketing or any other field. You need to go where you're going to get the most out of a position, where regardless of where that might be, a learning experience, more money, whatever that might be for you, you need to
Right.
go. And you said waste away. I feel like you're to some degree you could be missing out. I don't want to say dying. That's the first that's the
Right.
first word that comes to mind. I don't want to say that, but to some
Right.
degree when you don't and you're not consistently exploring opportunities, you could be.
You could
That's the
be.
risk that you run, is that you could be. And that's what I kind of heard in your career journey, which I think is phenomenal. There was something else that you mentioned in your career journey that I wanted to like have you elaborate a little bit more on, because
Sure.
your eyes kind of did like that when you said it, was performance,
Right.
right?
Oh, like
And it sounds
perf-
like you've had a great track record of success, and your performance is very, it's easily measurable, right? You've
right.
got so many analytical points and data points that are measured in marketing, right? So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that and how that has helped you land some of these
Oh,
jobs.
absolutely. So, and I'll use the time that I spent at Bloomberg because with the Bloomberg opportunity, the creative marketing project manager is very much in the weeds when it comes to helping with the creation of a landing page, what the user experience is going to be. And again, like I mentioned before, it's you understanding what works for the client. So when we all are ideating and understanding, because it's a partnership and understanding like what works for the client, we're also measuring the performance of the campaign because they pay the money, right? They, while this is all great and dandy, they want
It's
to make
fun.
sure that what they bought is what they're seeing, whether that be engagement on the video, engagement on the interaction on a page. It could be clicks, it could be likes, it could be comments. And for me, if a campaign did not perform, while I can only pull a few levers, right? Because we're working with a team, I felt bad. You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And so for me, it's very much so making sure that we're doing or creating the content that's going to work best for the audience and then pulling the levers, understanding, checking in to see how's it working on the site, how's it, and then if we're seeing that something that's not working, we are working with the client to understand what can we do to make sure that we're pulling additional levers so that this campaign performs properly. And so you're going to have some things that are like great and then others are, might be a little below the performance bar, but it's just, I think it's when you have the partnership with these advertisers and they understand that you're in it with them and that you're also there to help them understand that where we can make sure that we're performing well, it's a big deal in the end. And I think um with many of these with many of these advertisers we work with, when your book of business is showing that you are winning almost all the time or very often, it shows a light of that the group, again, not just only me, but the group is working in tandem, and this is going to make for a successful campaign. And that obviously shows a nice light on me and everyone else that's tied to me. And so for me, I think the better you do, the more you showcase, the more you advertise, and you are showcasing exactly what the client wants. It leads to more money to the company, but also I think these advertisers feel like they have a sure case in you and they're willing to come back. They're willing to, oh, well, is this person on the campaign? Oh, then I know.
Right.
You know what I mean? Then I know that if this girl's on the campaign, then I know my stuff is going to be presented in and showcased in the manner that we want it to be. So for me, I took it as a pride of joy because again, it's not only me because I work with a bunch of people, but I took pride in everything that I worked with and worked I took pride in everyone that I worked with and the projects that I ran, right? Because at the end, it's a section of me. And so that's why I think it's very important to be really in it, be collaborative, because in the end, that's going to help you grow in terms of the type of advertisers that want to come and spend with the company or the publisher that you're working with, but also it's a sense of pride.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very thankful for the opportunities that I've had to work with these brands because they had a trust level in me and the team. And I feel like there's nothing better than having a good trust level with the group to showcase how great a campaign can be. Hope that answers your question.
It does. And to your point, Bloomberg led to JP Morgan, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a direct reflection of the product that you put out there and the results that
Right.
it delivered, right? So that's ultimately, you still got to perform at the end of the day, right? And you got to
Absolutely.
have some, and you can tell you're passionate about the work you're doing, and you don't
Right.
want to put anything out there that's not going to drive results. The customer
Right.
service, the follow up, the check in to make sure everything is how you want it, you're seeing it on, all of those things are important to you
Yes.
personally, right? And
Yes.
I feel, and I could be, over speaking, but I feel like it would be important regardless of who you were working for.
Oh,
So you're not just
absolutely.
doing it because this is my
No,
job.
not
I'm
just
doing it because this is a part of my brand and
absolutely.
who I
No,
am.
and you have a good point. In the end, like this reflects me too. And
Yeah.
so I'm very cognizant of that. While we have a what's the best word I want to say? While we have a role to play to ensure that the advertiser gets what they need, it's also a reflection of your brand,
Yes.
me, you, everything that you do. And so you do feel a certain way or you feel very close to something if something does not perform well. And so, and the other thing that I want to mention is that even if, because you're going to have instances where things don't perform well and things of that nature, the one thing that I think is it's very poignant about when working with different people and different brands, the relationship really matters because if they
Mhm.
know that you put in your all and you're in there with them, it makes a world of a difference because they trust you. You know, and they understand that things don't always happen the way they're supposed to, but they knew that you were in it. And because you were in it, that you gave it your all. And so that they understand. And I think the collaboration that you have and the relationships you build with these brands and even the internal and external teams, it's super important because their trust level lies within you. And when they trust you, then they trust everything that you do. And that's important to you, your brand, and the company that you work for and everyone you support.
And any future opportunities that could be on the table as well, because they're going to probably be the ones that someone else might speak to about you, right? And say,
Well,
yo,
there's
tell
has
me
been some
about
offers.
Michelle, right?
There has been offers from clients, and so I'm very thankful for that. I mean, I didn't take any offers, but I had the opportunity to because of the relationship and the clients that I work with. I've been lucky enough for folks to offer me jobs
Yes.
for the advertisers that I work with. So no, it opens a lot of doors. It opens a lot of doors for you.
And so to tell that story like in an even broader way, those relationship you mentioned, internal, external, the advertisers, so you can build those types of relationships with coworkers, with people that work in other departments, that investment in time can yield things for you. May not be in that moment, but they can yield things for you in the
Like
future. And it's nice to
absolutely.
know you got options out there, right?
I mean, they don't happen all the time. Let's be clear. It
Right,
don't happen
right.
all
But
the
still,
time. But
it gives you a little bit of swag, a little bit of confidence, a little
yes,
air about yourself that
yeah,
I can go out here at this point in my career and go after the jobs I want to, work for the companies I work on the projects I want to work on,
right.
because
No, absolutely.
I have some options. Like, people
I
want
got
me,
options.
right? And that feels
People,
good. That
people
feels good.
want me.
That
Yeah.
feels
Oh,
good.
absolutely. No, you're correct. I think that's also the thing about networking. Make sure that you're networking, just generally speaking, but
Right.
like the relationship itself, like it can break your career
Mhm.
if you're not a partner with them, anybody. And like you said, it could be internal, it could be external, it could be the people you work with, because those are also very, very important. Because one minute you're thinking you're cool and you have a bad interaction and you're not working well with people, that's not a Yeah, that can
Helps you
transcend
launch.
into other opportunities that can be closed. The door can be closed if you're not working well with people. So partnership, collaboration is a big thing, and just understanding. Because again, we're all human, right? We're
Yeah,
all
yeah,
human. We make mistakes, but I know for me, the partnerships and the collaborations for at least the last 10 years, and the clients that I work with, has definitely opened doors for me. Whether or not I took them or not, and I
right,
didn't, it still opened the doors on the client side, which I never knew was even available to me all these years, because I just been hustling and grinding. And so
right.
I'm very thankful for that, because that wasn't like that when I first started my career,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah,
it's kind of nice to see fruits of my labor
yeah.
come into.
The investment of time, right? So
Yeah,
another
absolutely.
question I would ask you is if you could go back and tell your younger you something that would have helped you either mentally, emotionally, financially along
Oof.
the way, what would it like? What would that one thing be that would be important to you?
Well, there's a few, but I'll give you the one. Um,
And I reserve
Advocate.
the right to ask the other two
Yeah,
as well.
you can come back if you like.
Right.
Um, I would say advocation for yourself.
Mm,
Advocating for yourself. I think from when I was a young 20-year-old till now, even though there were times where I doubted myself, and then as I got older, I became very confident. The one thing I wish I would have been a little bit more forceful on is that advocation for myself. Because yeah, your boss can, like, hey, person A, B is doing great, but like, that's one person. And
mm,
so you gotta stick with your gut. You have to, when opportunity is available, advocate for you, yourself, your product, anything that you stand for. Because in the end, while you have other forces that may be supporting you or not supporting you, no one's going to tell your story better than yourself. And so what I would tell my younger self is advocate for yourself is the most important thing you can do for yourself, because nobody can tell your story better than you.
I think that's a phenomenal point. And I too probably had a deep experience with that. Just not really understanding, especially being a black woman, like
Mhm.
what was acceptable, what was okay to say, to
Absolutely.
not come across like cocky or arrogant or whatever those words are, labels that we tend to get, right? And I,
Absolutely.
I really kind of towed the line and just, if I just work hard, they're gonna know that I'm doing great, and they're gonna. That's just a lie. It's not
Well,
true.
why
They're
is that
not number one. That's my ego talking because
right?
nobody has that kind of time in the day to think about me and my work.
No,
They got to
they don't know.
focus on their results, what they got going on, their family, their kids. There's not enough time in the day for them to be that focused on me and my work. Right? It'd be a
Absolutely.
nice thing if a boss or or somebody had that kind of time. That'd be nice, but
Right.
realistically, ain't nobody got that kind of time. So
It's
that's
not
my
happening.
ego, right? And
Yes.
so learning that earlier, and then also understanding and not being unapologetic about saying this is me, this is what I do, this is what I've also done
Right.
measurably. Having managed over $1 billion at one point in my career in a block of business in my
Right.
early 30s, that's a pretty big deal. I don't know too many people that can say that in
Probably.
their lifetime, right?
Right.
But
Right. Right.
I needed to talk about that more.
No, absolutely. And if you got to understand, I mean, this when
Yeah.
you're working as a black woman, as well, because while you can be amazing, there's a lot of favoritism, there's a lot of nepotism, there's a lot of that. And if there's not, I'm sure there's not that many people that look just like us that are,
In
in
these
those higher
positions.
positions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just you. And so you're combating that. It would be nice if people actually give you your just due because of the hard work that you do, but they don't.
They don't.
Whatever forces might be out there, who in, out, whatever,
Yeah.
there's just not enough of that happening. So hard work isn't the only thing that's going to take you where you need to go. It's that advocacy. And so that's totally important. Yeah.
Yeah. Give us one more thing because you had something, and I want to give you the opportunity to give us that other thing. That is a big one. So if
That's a
you're
big one.
listening and you didn't take that note down, if you're
Ab-
early in your career, even if you're at the midpoint or the tail end, let's make that rest of that experience in the workplace or in your career, business, or what have you worth it
Yeah.
advocating for yourself. So give me that other one.
Okay, so this one is kind of tied together. So I'm going to give you two words, but they're tied together because they're important. Mentorship and sponsorship.
Mm, yeah.
And the reason why these are very important are two things. Mentorship is great because you'll have someone that can kind of coach you, if you have any issues in the in the workforce or even your personal. It's good to have someone on the side that, whether they went through it or not, has a little bit more experience than you and can kind of guide you. But then there is sponsorship, and that is even more important because a sponsor is someone that's in these meetings that is talking about you, about your work while you're not there. And so those two together, I mean, for me, it's unfortunate for me because I never had a mentor and I never had a sponsor. And so I'm learning now. I mean, I can at least try to get a sponsor now. But if I had known the importance of mentorship, the difference between mentorship and sponsorship early in my career, I think it would have helped me along the way. So those two in particular, mentorship, having someone guide you through the workforce, understanding the ebbs and flows of how to deal with the corporate world, and then the sponsorship, because the sponsorship, there's so many meetings where you have no idea if someone had just mentioned your name or your work, how the volumes it would speak. Because again, the hard work, no one really sees. You're doing the hard work, blah, blah, blah.
The
But if they're in
expectation.
that room, yeah,
But in
who's
the
speaking
room.
about you in the room? And that is the one thing that I wish I had known very beginning of my career. And so I'm gonna seek out my sponsor if I can in this new role. And then also giving back because I have mentees as well. I've signed up for all
Yeah.
the mentees and to make sure that I'm giving back. I did it this year at JPM, Morgan Chase, but understanding that you also have to give back, period. You gotta give
Right.
back. Because I'm just thinking back of when I didn't have anyone to kind of, I mean, you have your friends, right? You have
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
support
Yeah.
system on the side, and everybody's over there. You having conversations with your girlfriends and understanding the lay of the land. But I really wish that I had seeked out a mentor because that would have made a world of a difference.
Yeah, that's a bar. It's a bar. So you're getting the gems from
The gym.
almost a 20-year executive in an
Mhm.
incredible field, one that I'm also extremely passionate about. So my next question as we start to wrap up is going to be for those freelancers out there, those individuals in the marketing space are looking to break into the marketing space. Can you tell us a little bit about where you see, because you've seen a ton of transitions in your
Mhm.
career in the marketing space, right?
Right.
Like, it is, the landscape has completely changed in the last 20 years as far as what advertising and marketing looks like. What do you see next? Like, what's that thing that next thing in marketing, or like the internet was maybe, or like apps or digital or whatever? What's the thing that you see that's going
Oof.
to take marketing into another space?
Well, see, I would say there's two things I'm going to mention.
Yeah, go ahead.
Part of me is like, and I don't know it too well, but AI is going to be a thing. I
Yes.
don't know how, I don't know when, but AI is kind of stringing along, coming in and kind of taking over. So I think there's going to be some elements from the marketing perspective of how we utilize
Mm,
AI in our branding and marketing efforts in the future. Because I feel like if we're not moving toward the curves, you're kind of behind. So
right.
AI is going to kind of change the way we think about things, of how we market to people, how we advertise, and I think we're going to start seeing that because you see dribbles of it now, little things here
Yeah.
and there. So that's one big thing, and I'm still a big. This has already been out there. Obviously, the integration of video, that's still a big thing.
Right.
Snackable content is always going to be snackable and good for those in the advertising space. As long as you have content that's engaging, not super long, kind of short. I think branded content, video content is still going to be the way of the future. Maybe in some integration with AI a
Correct.
little bit. I don't know how, but that's also going to be. So those are my two big things. AI is just going to take over the world, and you got to be with the bandwagon. If you're not with the bandwagon, you're going to be falling towards the bottom.
The abyss, falling straight into the abyss. Right.
Going straight into the abyss. So that is a big thing, and I still think that again. as a secondary, I think video content will always be very important because it's snackable content. And if it's edited the proper way and it's showcased on our social beings, I don't want to say social, if it's showcased on our social channels, whether it be Threads or X
Yeah,
Twitter,
right. So you
or
got to
Facebook,
say both names so people know what you're talking about. We're not there yet. From a brand standpoint, we're not there yet to just say X. We're not. We're not.
so, we're going to make sure that we utilize AI, video AI, but AI definitely is going to integrate in that space. And then it's going to change the trajectory of how we think about branding and marketing toward the future. And I'm here for it. I'm ready to learn and understand it. And I'm thankful that I'm still here to kind of like learn it and then see how I can apply it to any of the marketing things that I'm handling.
Oh, that's great. That's good stuff. And I hadn't thought about that question for myself even to look
Right.
at it, but you just gave me two that I can use to answer that question moving forward, because I agree with you. And when you
Mm-hmm.
mention visual, we're visual creatures. So anything that might be happening with virtual reality or the metaverse, or whatever you want to call it, it's all visual. And so to your point, snackable content, has a place there. How it's, delivered or made may evolve.
Evolve.
Right. But
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
ultimately, as long as we can see, it's gonna be important.
It's going to be important.
It's
I'm
gonna be
riding
important.
a wave. I'm riding
Yeah,
a wave so I can understand and learn like everybody else.
absolutely. And I love that about your energy and your vibe, is that you're continually wanting to evolve. You're not in this place of, I've done 20, this is how you do it, and that's it. No, I want to learn and I want to grow. And I think people can take a note from that as well, no matter where you are in your career. So I think that's awesome. I commend you for that, for continually want to evolve. I've seen brands, that historically were around since feels like the beginning of time, come to their knees and no
Yeah.
longer exist because of their unwillingness to evolve.
Right. No,
So I think
true.
that's important in career as well.
No,
As well.
I totally agree, and I'm thanking you for that. When you said 20, I was like, that sounds like a jail sentence.
I got my 20-year bid here. Like, absolutely. But man, and it probably doesn't even feel like it's been 20 years, right?
I mean, it doesn't, but then there's little instances and you get a flashback. Oh, I remember when I had to do this to kind of get ahead because you go through things where it's like you're not getting paid enough. There's one thing. You're not getting paid enough. You're working super hard, not getting paid enough. Do I move? Do I jump? And it's like you got to figure out what's good for you
Mhm.
because payment is important. It is important, but figure out that mix for you of
Right.
how you can survive. Because sometimes the job that might not pay the most, maybe they pay okay, might be the best in terms of your creativity. And
Yes.
so you kind of have to balance it kind of all out to see what works best for you. But yes,
Right.
getting to the bag is very important. I like my bag. I need a bag, more bag.
And another bag on top of that.
Yes.
Absolutely. It allows you to do things and be happy with doing them. That and there's the money that you can and what you can do with it, but there's also, because of what you're doing, that you have to feel like it's equitable,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Otherwise, that will leave you feeling miserable, like not wanting to be where you are. And I've
Oh,
seen too many people and coached too many people on, now they hate something they once loved because of it.
yeah.
And
No.
that you don't want to happen, for
Mm-mm.
anybody listening. That's a horrible place to be, when you have a passion for something and the
And you're
pay ruins it for you.
your
Yeah.
pay ruins and your vibe, your the tenacity to do or grow,
Hmm.
it becomes dim and people can make your life dim, based on like the negative energy of, I
Yes.
hate to say it, but you're gonna have some haters along the way. And people are not all for you. Even if you're a superwoman and you're doing it, people are not all for you. So that can also dim your light. But don't let that dim your light for too long. Because
Yeah.
if you're a star and you're a winner, you can break out of that because
Yeah.
in the end the advocacy of yourself, making sure that you know that this is you are your brand, you are important, you are loved, do all of that, that's going to take you soaring to the top.
Man, it has been an absolute pleasure, Michelle, to spend some time with you today in a field that I'm extremely passionate about, have been probably most of my life, to be honest with you. So it's been a delight for me personally, but most of the interviews are, I always like to tell the
Mhm.
audience, I'm selfish. I will personally admit, most human beings are. I'll be the first one to admit that I'm selfish when I get to sit down with a guest like yourself, learn from you through your experiences, especially in this field. So it's been a treat for me. So I want to thank you for spending some time with us today. And you guys show some love to Michelle in the comments. Let her know what resonated with you throughout this interview. And of course, if you have any questions for her, we'll be sure to leave her LinkedIn profile so you can connect with her and reach out and just tell her how much you enjoyed the interview, as well as, hey, if she's got any additional tips on anything specific that you heard, I know she's available for that. So as we wrap up, I always like to ask the guests to leave our audience with their final 5 words. So I'm going to give you the floor to leave our audience with your final 5 words.
Let's see. If I had to break it down to 5, no matter what, be true to yourself always.
She's going to count them up. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, so say it again and we'll count them up. We'll count them up.
No matter what, be true to yourself.
Yeah. I feel
so.
So 5, be true to yourself always. There you
go.
Be
true to yourself always. Be
there
true
you go.
to yourself always.
I love that. I love that. And that is a good, not only a good, it's probably in Proverbs somewhere, but it's a good mantra, and it is also important.
Absolutely.
I think you've had the success, if I were to guess, because you have been true to yourself and what you enjoy doing, even though it didn't quite look the way you thought it might when you were much younger.
Right.
You were absolutely passionate, and I can see that in how you talk about the work that you're doing and the passion you have for the relationship. So I know I've been blessed by this, and I know the audience has as well. I thank you for your time out of that busy schedule with one of the largest financial institutions in the world. I know that comes with a lot. Trust me, I know. So I appreciate you taking the time with us. If you guys haven't already hit that subscribe button, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video if you've made it to this point, and ultimately share it with someone that you might know that wants to get into the marketing field, advertising field, creative, or what have you, or wants to learn more about it. And maybe that's your pivot in your career. Be sure to share it with someone that you know. And until next time, as I always say to the audience, I love you, and we'll see you soon.
Now, the 5-minute career hack, we call this hacking. Look at you. You just did it. And you don't have to stop here. Take one step every week and ensure that you are pouring into you and getting closer to your career goals. Yep, you see that button down there? Hit subscribe, but don't stop there, because you know what they say, sharing is caring. So take 5 and we'll see you next week.